Shalom Israel. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, all honor, and all glory to Yahweh, Bahashim, Yahweh Shai, Bahashim Kakadash, the barns of the apostles, and else great millstone for teaching us his truth, peace, and blessings to the hopeful light of Israel. Shalom. Yahweh is the name of the Heavenly Hebrew. Bahashim is the name. Yahweh Shai is the name of the begotten Son. Back with a lesson, and I've seen the title. So this is the American Dream? Question mark. And pretty much going to go into the estate that America, aka Babylon the Great, is in, and how it's on the downhill, the downslope, it's spiraling, and things are only continuing to get worse. You know, America is no longer looked upon as a place where you go to fulfill your dreams. You know? And as you're about to see in these two quick videos, it just goes to show just how terrible and bad America really is. You know? Babylon the Great ain't so great. So play the two quick videos, get that out the way, and get the few scripts that came to mind, and Lord's will be able to find something through spirit.
Literally looks like a zombie apocalypse has begun in the US right now. Eerie footage is coming out of Philadelphia this week showing hordes of people slouched over but still standing, seemingly conscious and unconscious at the same time. One video walked through the crowded sidewalk with tents, people sat in camping chairs, empty needle packets on the floor, showing a devastating side of America that has quickly spiraled into an epidemic. The thing that's turning these people into these zombie-like figures is a newer drug sweeping US cities called xylazine, or better known as tranq. Its intended.
As you also know, Esau Edom will, purposely, push these things into specific, neighborhoods, and areas where Jake is mainly located at.
To sedate larger animals like cows and horses.
But it's also going to show just how terrible and low of a state that, America is in. I believe you're over there in California, and as well as many different areas, you have like the most homeless people, in those areas. And over there in Hollywood especially, man.
Recently, people have begun abusing it because of the unique high it gives. Unfortunately, it also brings horrific side effects, including raw wounds that spread rapidly and can result in rotting flesh or amputation.
Now America is being looked upon as the place where the most shootings take place, killings, murders. Also look at the military. Using drugs to promote and to incentivize, people to come enlist and all that. But now you're starting to see, once again, the nations are starting to look at Babylon the Great as, not so great. That so-called American dream is not really but a nightmare, man.
If left untreated. In fact, the drug is so potent that the White House recently declared it an emerging threat. And according to a 2022 report, xylazine has now been discovered in 36 states. It literally looks like a zombie.
I was going to get another video I saw, which I came across just a couple hours ago, down to that point.
An inhaler.
$100.
And it's pretty much over there in the UK where you have this interview right here. You're asking people over there in that area, how much do you think, pretty much healthcare and specific things cost?
Yeah, you're pretty close. It's a bit more.
120.
250 to 350.
For an inhaler?
Yes.
Man, so if you're poor, you're dead.
So 2 EpiPens. Okay. How much do you reckon they are?
$80.
600.
$40.
I'm afraid not.
More?
More?
$100.
More.
150.
More.
250.
More.
Shut.
And the scriptures that came to mind when I first saw this, shameful spewing should be upon thy glory.
Fridge.
More.
£300.
Double
$600. What? Why?
That's a very good question.
$600.
Yeah. I wonder if you could tell me how expensive you think calling an ambulance out to your location is in America.
I guess it depends on where you live. It really does. Is there a price for that?
Yes.
Jeez. $100? $200?
$2,500.
For what? Why? Why?
There you go. But going back to that point I was mentioning earlier, America is now looked upon as a place with the most, obese people and just the most shootings, killings, murders taking place. It's no longer looked upon as so-called great anymore. That's why Scripture also going to in, book of Joel, I believe the 3rd chapter, where you have these nations that are starting to stand up against, America. Let the weak say, I am strong. But let's get this scripture right here, Isaiah 24:11. It's one of the scriptures that came to mind when I first saw that the zombie drug that you see being pushed. Now it says, As the book of Isaiah, the 24th chapter and 11th verse. Now it says, there is a crying for wine in the streets. All joy is darkened. The mirth of the land is gone. When you go into the word mirth, basically goes into the word enjoyment, merriness, joy, as you see right here also. But let's go back up top. There's a crying for wine in the streets. People are going to be desiring and looking for, something to drink, man, to pretty much escape reality. Want to, what's I'm looking for? Escape, the things that they are going through, as you see a lot of people do today. They drink to, let loose, to not worry about what's going on. And that's how it's going to be, especially coming to the last days with how bad it's going to get. And as you see, just once again, the type of state that America is in and how it's on the downslope. Things are only going to continue to get worse, man, until this place is destroyed. And here you see how other nations starting to look at Babylon the Great. And now you're starting to see the way that these other nations are looking at America. Dealing with China, Russia, and you saw in that video the UK. How they're shocked and surprised they are. Dealing with the healthcare that you see over here in Babylon the Great and how bad it is. But let's continue on. Let's get a few more scriptures, and that'll be the lesson. Lord was edifying. Now there's Habakkuk 2:16, one of the main points. Now it says, thou art filled with shame for glory. Drink thou also, and let thy foreskin be uncovered. Let the cup of the Lord's right hand shall be turned unto thee, and shameful spewing should be upon thy glory. Which you also see in many other, situations. Which I kind of made a lesson similar to this right here. A few weeks back, going to how, I believe it was Biden, saying there would be a deadbeat nation if they can't pay off their debt. And also how other nations are going to look at America. How they're not able to, pay off their debts, how they are struggling, and all that. Especially looking at their military. As I mentioned earlier, now they're using drags to promote people to go enlist and all that. And even have their own veterans, the people that served in the military are, ashamed to say that they have served in the military. That's how bad it is. Just seeing the division, in the midst of Babylon the Great, especially coming these last days. Now you're about to see, elections are gonna, also take place. So things are only going to, pick up, and the tensions will only continue to arise. So hey, this place, is finished, man. Ultimately. But let's continue on. But it's 1 Thessalonians 5:3. Now it says, for when there shall be peace and safety, then sudden destruction cometh upon them, as travail upon one with child, and they shall not escape. And ultimately got this right here just to go to show that peace, safety coming to this place. Especially just dealing with the authorities and the people that are in power, trying to do damage control on the situations and things that are happening to calm the masses down and to say everything's all fine and dandy when it's really not. Especially dealing with the bank collapses and all that. You saw how many people lost out on money and just how angry the people were. That's why I was also mentioning the division of this place. Because it's also a terrible sign that this kingdom is coming to an end. And you're to see once again how low of a state.
It literally looks like a zombie apocalypse has begun in the US right now. Eerie footage is coming out of Philadelphia this week showing hordes of people slouched over.
See what the comments had to say. Cow drinks that makes me like a cow. Hey, 144 right there. Call Yahweh Shemal Shai. Let's go over that number, but let's continue on. Second main point. Let's get a few more. We already got 1 Thessalonians 5:3. 2 Timothy 3:1. Now it says this, now also that in the last days perilous times shall come. And you go to the word perilous, it goes into basically terrible, man. Bad times are coming. If you're not under the hedge and the protection of the Lord of Yahweh Shemal Shai, you are completely through, man. Especially with everything that these devils are doing. And will come to do come these last days, especially in time of Jacob's trouble. Without the Lord, you're through, man. You're finished. Good luck. 2 Timothy 3:1. And I say you should know, let's get the NLT version. You should know this, Timothy, that in the last days there will be very difficult times. So heavy times are coming, man. And it's one thing to speak on it, but it's going to be a completely different story when you're actually in the midst of it, man. Especially when all hell is breaking loose. So I skipped going to Isaiah 33:6. How wisdom and knowledge is going to be the stability of our times. Because we know the things that are happening, what's going on, and ultimately what's to come. So it's going to keep us sane and stable during those days when you have people left without answers, questioning the things that are happening and why, why it is, Matthew 12:26. Now it says, if Satan cast out Satan, he is divided against himself. How shall then his kingdom stand? So I was mentioning the main point of this lesson, the main topic is going into how terrible in a state that America, aka Babylon the Great, is in, and how it's just only getting worse. Especially dealing with their people, man. Because once your whole nation is divided, that's a terrible sign. Because that also goes to show he's losing his power, man. So let's keep going to how the kingdom shall be translated from one people to another. Who's going to be translated to? The Israelites, man. But let's get these last three. And we'll shut down from there. Let's quick lesson to the spirit. 2 Ezra 15:49. I saw that zombie video. Or that zombie... I almost said it. Something else. That zombie drug is being pushed. Trying to think of a lesson. Through the spirit. And that popped up to mind. Dealing with just how terrible, and bad... a bad look that America has now. That one so-called American dream that everyone wanted to, fulfill and go to do, it is now nothing but a facade, man, a lie. But 2 Ezra 15:49. Now I said, I will send plagues upon thee, widowhood, poverty, famine, sword, and pestilence, to wayside houses with destruction and death. And that's what you're seeing the Lord bringing upon this place, man. That's what going back to 2 Ezra 15:11-12. Going into those plagues and pestilence that the Yahweh Shai sent out upon this place. With his stretched arm and mighty hand, now just smite Egypt, but again with plagues as before, paraphrasing. So there's that. As we this right here, 2 Ezra 16:38, as I mentioned earlier, things are only progressively going to get worse. We're just in the beginning of this, man. Going back to the year 2020, people thought things couldn't get worse. Well, you were wrong. Now it says, as when a woman with child 9th month brings forth their son, with 2 or 3 hours of her birth, great pains come past her womb. Now, who is that baby about to be delivered? The Israelites, man. And those birth pains are going to these plagues and these pestilence, these judgment Lord's bringing out, and now these things will only increase because nearing the end of that birth, those pains are at its climax, at its maximum. Now it says, when the child cometh forth, they slack not a moment, so it's not letting up, it's constant. So I've seen especially so many things happening now. 39th verse, even so shall not the plagues be slacking upon the earth, and the world shall mourn, and the sorrow shall come upon it on every side. So there's no escaping it, man. Other than through our Lord Yahweh Shai, present to John 14:6, how he is the way. Yahweh Shai's name literally goes into he is the deliverer. He's our savior, man. Matthew 24:8. It's also adding on to it. Let's get the NLT. Or the NIV and the NLT. And I said, all these are the beginning of birth pains. Look at that. But all this is only the first of the birth pains, with more to come. Clear out with the King James. As all these are the beginning of sorrow. So hey, we're just in the startup of it, man. Yahweh Shai is only going to continue to kick these things off, which I believe I got Matthew 24, but I don't know what happened to it. Let's actually get the 24th chapter, which I believe I had this. I don't know what happened to it, but we'll close it out with this right here. That says, for then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the time. So I like to read it one more time. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. So, going to show how we're heading some times that have never been seen before all throughout history, showing how terrible, and bad and great the judgment is really going to be, man. Times like never before, man. Especially mentioning Isaiah 9:5, going into World War III, those ICBMs that will be shot upon this place. Now, verse 22. And except the days should be shortened, then there shall no flesh be saved, but if elect sake, those days shall be shortened. So Yahweh shall hasten those days for his elect. And Lord's will aware of that number. So we doing what we can now in order to make our calling to election sure. Fighting for our crown, man. Fighting that good fight of faith. But pretty much the main point of the lesson already. Quick lesson to his spirit. I was wanting to jump into that after I saw that video. Going to how terrible of an estate that America is now in. Babylon the Great ain't looking so great anymore. But Lord's edifying. I do want to give all praises, all honor, and all glory to Al Bashim Shai, Bashim Kakdash. Double honor to the apostles and elders, great millstone for teaching us this truth. Peace and blessings to the whole collective Israel. And shalom, saints, and willing.